Tonye, thanks so much for joining us today. It sounds quite worrying that one player is being prioritized over others. Help us appreciate the case that Transcorp, your company, and of course others are making here.
Well, good morning, Wale. It's a very simple issue. We have to have a very standard set platform for which the power sector in Nigeria must operate.
Yeah.
We have absolutely nothing against the federal government giving a World Bank guarantee to any company, as long as it's given to all companies. When we started this whole process at the beginning, the federal government, one of the promises was that we would get a guarantee from the World Bank against which the model worked. And that was why we invested as we did to take over Egbin and a couple of other power stations in Nigeria. So that's what everybody moved on with.
Yeah.
And then you got a situation where the federal government did not carry through on the guarantees at the time, and that has led to a distortion in the market today. Now Azura comes in and they get that guarantee, of which we have no problem with that. What we're all saying now is, since that guarantee has been given, then the same guarantee should be extended to everybody else. And I can guarantee you, if that's the case, nobody will be arguing.
Is it very difficult, so to speak, for the government to replicate what it has done to Azura? Does it cost the government a lot more? I mean, help us appreciate why this could be a difficult decision for the government.
Well, obviously, any guarantee that you give comes at a cost.
Yeah.
But then what you're weighing is the cost of giving that guarantee versus what the nation gains in terms of power supply, stable power supply. And one thing that this government has been saying from the beginning, which is appreciated by everybody, is that you cannot have economic progress, you cannot build the economy the way we want to build it without power being a central and key component to that. Right. So we're fully in agreement with this. What we're then saying is that the cost for that guarantee versus what the country gains from stable power supply and an increase in power supply is minimal.
What help us appreciate what has been the cost to your company and others in terms of the delay of the government delivering on one of these promises at the start of the process?
So what you saw was almost a quick ramp up in monies owed to the both at the disco level and at the generation level, going well over $2 billion in a very, very short period of time. And now these are monies from investors, local investors, I must say, who earn in Naira and have to pay in dollars. And it's a huge amount, which is where the 701 billion Naira came in. Because after the government had gone through to review the claims made by the Gencos that this was unsustainable, the government listened. And having listened, decided well over a year ago that they were going to make this payment of 701 billion, which is not a full settlement of what is being owed. Not a full settlement.
But it's a start.
But it's a start. And we were okay with that. We were happy with that start. And on the basis of that, take Egbin, for example, on the basis of what we knew was coming, we went into agreements with O&M players to supply what we need for maintenance of the parts. So that's already been done. So we've already secured equipment, plants and equipment to come in to do this as against what should be received under the 701. So any distortion in all of that affects, there's a ripple effect. And those are the kind of things that we want to ensure just stay stable.
Right. Help us appreciate where the power sector is at now. We know it's broken down into segments. So we have the distribution, we have generation, and of course transmission, which at the moment remains in the hand of the government. And of course, investors, businesses in Nigeria, and of course, the common Nigerian has been waiting for years for us to see stable power. Do you get the sense we're any closer to that when you look at the activities we've seen over the last 1 or 2 years?
Absolutely. So we've progressed. Definitely there has been progress. And this is one of the things when you see a determination by different sectors to make it work. So for now, generation, transmission, and even the distribution has begun to
plateau.
Well, not plateau. It has begun to increase in terms of investment that is going in locally. Now,
new investments are coming in?
Yeah, to an extent. When I say new investments, you have to maintain equipment. You've got to improve distribution equipment, so transformers, so that investment is going in. So people are investing in that because you have to be able to receive. If your entire distribution network goes down, you can't do anything. So that's been ongoing. But That's ongoing on the basis that from a government perspective, there's an understanding also that these monies have to come back. There's a distortion in the tariff. We all know it. Everybody knows that. I mean, it's not rocket science that as long as the tariff is distorted, you are not going to be able to get the kind of improvement that you want. But when you look at the transmission end of it, the Transmission Company of Nigeria has actually done a lot in the last couple of, the last couple of months, let's say a year. And they've done a lot to ensure that that which is generated can be transmitted to distribution. So we're seeing some investment, especially in the transmission area, that is allowing power to move. So you get a little bit more.
But what I'm hearing as well is that, yes, we're hearing those reports, but we're still far from what we need.
Of course you are. Most definitely.
For us to move into the next step, you've just mentioned the tariffs. Many are suggesting that if we don't fix the tariffs, there's no way we're going to see the type of investments that are required for us to really scale up generation and, of course, distribution to the rest of Nigeria. And I think that is the biggest concern. Help me appreciate, in your view, what's the cost, especially to the government, if we continue to delay on the tariffs? Because debts, I imagine, may continue to increase.
So not just, first of all, there's a tangible and there is intangible. I think it's very easy for you to do a calculation saying that if you're generating and you're receiving 60% of what you generate in terms of cost, that 40% you can actually calculate exactly what that will translate to. What is more difficult to appreciate, which must be done, is the intangible of what it means to actually hit the kind of power that we need. If today we're doing roughly 7,000 megawatts in total as far as transmission is concerned, and about 5,000 megawatts as far as distribution is concerned, and you have 10,000 megawatts of generation capacity today, you already see that there is a distortion. You need to increase distribution up to the 10,000 that you have, increase transmission to the 10,000 to even begin to see that appreciation. What is lost in 5,000 megawatts every single day is mind-boggling. So you have that. You haven't even hit the extra 10,000 that you need for just stable economies. So when government is looking at this over the years, and in the whole time of privatization, which is going to 4 years, which is about 4 years now, in that time we ought to have doubled, and we could have doubled our capacity by now. Now, when you think about it, that you haven't doubled capacity across board in this period of time because of a tariff distortion, you begin to ask yourself, is it worth it? If you had allowed tariff to stay where it should have been, or you had given the guarantees as has been done now with Azura, if you had done that at the beginning, you would have seen the way Azura in 1 year was able to meet their commitment, make profit on it, increase their capacity. Why? Because the model works. And so this for us has always been the case. In the past, it was us saying that this model doesn't work as is. That's the model that we have. But nobody was listening because we were the ones complaining. Now we have something to compare, and that's the beautiful thing about having an Azura model in the mix. Because now you can see the difference. You can actually see that if you do this, this is what would happen. If you don't do this, this is what would happen. And so we have a combination to argue for. And so what the argument is now is that if you really want this industry to move forward, then give those guarantees. Put the World Bank guarantee across board to everybody, and let's see what the difference would be.
Right.